Yeah, there you go. Get away from everybody. Hey, you got a quarter?
Sound by the Burbank Studio 5.
Oh, I get it.
Okay.
Oh, no. Does that mean there's going to be a sequel?
I don't know. I hope not.
Well,
Thanks,
a lot
folks.
for joining us. I'm sure you had a whole lot more fun than we did.
Yeah, we're out of here.
Well, as you can see, we're slightly more upbeat and happy, basically because the movie is over.
Yeah, that's the biggest reason we're happy is because that movie is over.
Yeah, it was. I mean, like I said, the funny thing is that the movie was terrible, but you know, it was so fun to pick on.
It was, and you know, Mr. Projection thought he was dropping a bomb on us, and well, we kind of managed to turn the tables a little bit. He's still up there fuming away, and I'm sure he'll get his revenge sometime. But
God only knows what he'll give us
not
next
today.
week. He'll probably give us a John McBride movie next week with our luck. All right, so basically we're going to get into sequels this week. Last time we did Best and Worst of 2007, and this time we're going to do Best and Worst sequels. We're both going to have our list of the top 3 of each.
Right, absolutely. And, you know, this isn't just 2007. These are the best and worst sequels of all time, really. Yeah. And, Scotty, why don't you give me your number 3 worst sequel?
The number 3 worst sequel was absolutely any sequel anyone made after the first Friday the 13th. Oh, so they were all terrible.
So you're talking 2 through, what is it, 10 now?
2 through 10. I mean, the funny thing is some of them were stupider than others. Like 10 was probably the most ridiculous of them all. But it's not like 10 was terrible, but 5 was good. No, they were just all terrible.
Right,
and I'm one of the few people that never liked any of the Friday the 13th.
Really? See, I liked the 3rd one, and I thought the 4th one was pretty cool, but I can understand. I mean, the series has taken such a nosedive. And
to each his own. I thought it was all bad.
I mean, how are they going to make another, 3 to bring the sequels up to 13?
Look, if they want to bring this sequel up to 13, they ought to shoot whoever brings that up. I mean, literally, whoever walks in and says, "Look, we want to do
good idea.
We want to do 3 more Uber Jasons." I hope they just throw them right out a window. Yeah. So, what do you got for your 3rd worst?
Well, actually, staying in the horror genre, the 3rd worst movie I thought was Halloween 3: The Season of the Witch. Now, don't get me wrong. By itself, this was a pretty good, scary movie.
I was about to say, I actually enjoyed it. I thought it was a good movie.
But why they put it under the Halloween moniker, this had nothing to do with Michael Myers. This had nothing to do with Dr. Loomis, or whatever his name was.
Right, Dr. Loomis.
Dr. Loomis. I mean, it was a good movie, just shouldn't have been under the Halloween name.
I don't know if it was, because I think John Carpenter had something to do with this. I also think they wanted to use the Halloween theme. I agree with you. They should have left it Season of the Witch, and on its own, it was a good movie.
Yeah.
But I definitely understand where you're coming from.
That's okay. That's cool. So what do you got for number 2 of the worst sequels?
Oh, my goodness. The worst sequel, number 2, is Jaws: The Revenge. Oh. This movie was awful. Yeah. And, of course, we all know we all know the premise of every Jaws. There's another shark that shows up, and, of course, it's bigger than the last one. Yeah. And now, of course, it follows the wife of Roy Scheider's character, the Chief Brody character. It follows her to the Bahamas. It's enormous. It's like a floating mall. Yeah. It roars like Godzilla. And in the best thing about this movie was when they showed flashbacks to the first movie.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Other than that, this movie was awful. The woman who played Brody, the Chief's wife.
The Chief's wife.
Looked terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, she looked awful. And Michael Caine lost the bet. Do you know he was not able to be in Los Angeles to pick up his Academy Award for Hannah and Her Sisters because he was making this piece of crap?
Yep. And the other thing I heard is the woman that played Brody's wife, the only reason why she took this in the first place was because she was going to get top billing.
Yeah. Oh, lucky her.
Exactly. I mean,
well,
what a great film, though.
You know, Michael Caine was like, he was probably like Sir John Gielgud in Caligula saying, "Remove me from the titles completely."
Exactly.
What do you got for your second worst?
My second worst, and this is a travesty, was the Blues Brothers 2000. The original Blues Brothers, I loved. I still love it to this day. This one is a junky, crappy, horrible ripoff. And I love John Goodman. I think John Goodman is great, and Dan Aykroyd. I like them. This film still should never have been made.
No, and funny thing is, I've never even seen it.
Don't waste your time. You at home, don't waste your time. Seriously. Seriously. What What's the worst sequel you've ever seen?
Well, you know, the funny thing is, before I get to my worst, I want to get to just a couple of honorable mentions.
Oh, yeah.
That if we had 5, I would have put them there.
Yeah.
The Exorcist 2, The Heretic.
Oh,
Was horrible.
Yeah.
Talk about an unnecessary sequel. And the funny thing is, you brought Linda Blair back.
Yes.
Excuse me. You brought back Max von Sydow.
yes, yes.
And you had Louise Fletcher, who was not that far removed from winning the Oscar as Nurse Ratched in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Right.
And you had the brilliant Richard Burton.
yeah,
And they screwed
but they
everything
found a way
up.
to screw it up, though.
They messed the whole thing up.
That's the problem.
This movie was terrible. It wasn't scary. It wasn't clever. It wasn't interesting.
Yeah.
Even the makeup was worse.
All right, yeah. There
was
really
terrible.
is. There's no silver lining in this movie, is there?
And the other one that would have been on my list, and I know you liked it, and I know a lot of people liked it, I absolutely hated it, was Terminator 2.
See, now...
I like the third one more than I like the second one.
Really? Because I thought... I liked the first one. I thought the second one was one of those... It was actually a little bit better than the first one. Third one I didn't like, but you and I are just going to have to agree to disagree on that one because...
I thought the
I
first one was
enjoyed it.
clever, it was interesting, it was smart, it was done really well,
Right. And I figured...
and it was original.
It was. And I took the second one as the next logical step. Now, the third one with the female Terminator, don't even get me started.
No,
but
I think
understand.
had they just kept Arnold Schwarzenegger as the bad guy, it would have worked so much better.
Yeah,
The whole liquid
yeah.
metal dude.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let me give you a couple of my honorable mentions
Okay.
before we get to the number ones here. First of all, the first honorable mention I have to give is to Caddyshack 2. Another film, I don't know why it was even made. They tried to cash in on the popularity and the success of the first film by putting Jackie Mason in and having him pretend to be one of the boys. I mean, obviously Ted Knight passed on the project. I believe Chevy Chase is the only original from the first film that's actually in the second one.
Yeah, well, we know Chevy Chase has done nothing but make great career choices
Oh,
ever since
absolutely.
leaving Saturday
Absolutely.
Night Live.
I mean, I've got the Chevy Chase show on tape, don't you?
oh, yeah.
You know, it's just
I got
horrible.
Funny Farm at home.
Yeah, and the other one I've got to give is the Matrix. Those two
Oh, my
sequels after the
gosh.
first Matrix were bad, and everybody jumped up and down and said, these are the films you have to, this is a life-changing event.
Right.
No, it's
No,
not.
it's
I'm
not.
sorry. The first Matrix I like. It's one of those films, like I've told you before, the more I see it, the less and less I like it.
Right. That's why you can watch it like once a year, once every
Right.
couple of years, like the Wizard of Oz type
Right,
of thing. You know,
right.
you watch it once every year. It remains good, but unlike the Wizard of Oz, the more you watch it, like you said, the more you're like, oh, this
Right.
is just
Like
dumb.
I said, my biggest problem with The Matrix is just it's so wordy. I mean, they don't answer any questions. They answer questions with a question. And then once you get to the second Matrix and then the third one, and they have that
And the
big
third one
resolution at the end, and
I know they have the big resolution at the end. You're like, what was the whole point
Exactly.
of the
Yeah.
last 6 hours?
Yeah.
It was, I remember thinking to myself in the third Matrix going, if something doesn't happen, I'm leaving and walking into another movie.
right. And did anything happen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I still should have walked into another movie. All right. I'm going to give you my absolute worst sequel of all time. And the funny thing is that it stays in the horror genre, actually. And that is a movie most of you haven't seen, luckily.
Yeah.
Slumber Party Massacre 2. Oh. Now, this was just horrible. And I know you've seen it.
Yes, unfortunately.
The first Slumber Party Massacre was about this mean, nasty killer who's all of 5'1" with a big wall drill, chasing around.
Was it sorority girls or something like that?
Yeah,
or
basically mostly naked
camping,
sorority
yeah.
girls. Look, like I said, when you're 8, it's scary. When you're 28, it's idiotic. So now they bring the killer back, but it's a completely different guy. He's like this Andrew Dice Clay ripoff now. He got this big drill, but it's shaped like a guitar. The movie is so mind-bogglingly stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, the first one was terrible. It was dumb. It was stupid. It was slow. It was
preposterous.
Exactly.
You
It was so bad. And I don't know what movie executive was smoking crack, shooting heroin,
Yeah.
and sniffing glue at the same time for when somebody came in and said, okay, you know that movie Slumber Party Massacre? I want to make a second
Yeah,
one.
let's make a sequel. This will make tons of money.
And here's what it is.
Everybody will love it.
And I mean, what idiot went, oh yeah,
Yes.
yeah, oh, here, take all my money.
hopefully-
The only thing about this movie is that you get a chance to see a very young Crystal Bernard who would
That's
go
true.
on to fame in the TV show Wings.
Right.
This movie is awful. What do you got for your first?
Again, this is a movie that never should have even been made, and I hope somebody got fired over this, and then rehired and then fired again. Worst sequel I've ever seen is without a doubt Jaws 3D.